Testing, 1, 2, 3. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check check.
Good morning, everyone. I just ask you to take your seats. We do have a quorum in the room, so we're going to get started. Good morning again. Bonjour à tous. I want to begin this morning by welcoming everyone to the Transit Commission meeting. I'm so pleased to start our meetings by recognizing OC Transpo employees who go above and beyond the call of duty to help members of our community. They truly are committed and dedicated individuals, and for that, they deserve our recognition. This acknowledgement is part of the TransSecure program, which is a well-established community watch program on wheels. As many of you may know, last Monday, May 12th, we celebrated the 24th anniversary of TransSecure's awards. During the ceremony, we heard 12 remarkable stories about brave and quick-thinking OC Transpo staff members. These individuals have truly made a difference in the lives of Ottawa citizens. As always, we recognize one particular staff member each year with the title of 2013 TransSecure Employee of the Year. This year, that employee was Mary Ann, and her story is certainly one that I won't soon forget. I'm sure Mary Ann won't soon forget it either. One September night in 2013, Mary Ann took heroic measures to help a family in need. While in service on Route 168, Mary Ann noticed a duplex with its roof engulfed in flames. She contacted control and advised the supervisor of the situation. With no passengers on board, she immediately ran to the first house to wake the family and get them out of the burning house. She then proceeded to wake the second family, then provided shelter for them on the bus while waiting for Ottawa Fire Services to arrive. I am so grateful that Mary Ann is here with us today in the gallery. I would like to invite her to join me at the podium. Mary Ann, I don't think that there's any doubt that you probably saved a whole lot of lives that day, and you must be very proud, and we are very proud of you. So as chair of the Transit Commission, I want to congratulate you and thank you for your heroic efforts to help a family in need and for carrying out your duty of providing safe, secure, and reliable transit services to the people of Ottawa. Congratulations. I don't think we have a photographer, do we? So congratulations. Did you want to say anything?
Oh, no, you're too shy.
Okay.
Say you do it anytime. Yeah, I'll do it anytime, actually.
Okay, there we go. So thank you, Mary Ann, for your inspiring story. I would now like to take this time to recognize our April 2014 TransSecure recipient. In the last 3 years, this individual has received 5 commendations for his professionalism and kind consideration and was also the December 2013 TransSecure recipient. Last month, bus operator Robert was traveling en route along Carling Avenue when he noticed an individual lying on the roadway. Sadly, the individual had attempted suicide and jumped off of the 417 overpass onto Carling Avenue. Robert was quick to react and contacted the Transit Operations Control Center to inform them of the situation. He then proceeded to use his bus to shield the scene and protect the individual before emergency services arrived on scene. The individual was transported to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. I'm so pleased that Robert is here with us today. I'd like to invite Robert to join me here at the podium. Robert, as Chair of the Transit Commission, I want to thank you for your exceptional efforts to help someone in need, and this is multiple times that we have thanked you. So thank you for being an outstanding OC Transpo employee.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Did you want to say anything? Okay. Our drivers are heroes, but they're also shy heroes. Starting with declarations of interest. Seeing none, confirmation of minutes 48 from April 16, 2014. Carried. Communications as listed on the agenda. Presentations, Chair's update. I do have a short update, so we'll hold that and return to it. Item number 2, update from the General Manager, Transit Services. He does not have an update, so we'll carry on. Item number 3, capital adjustments and closings of projects. And there is a presentation, so we'll hold that item and return to it. Item number 4, extension of temporary reduction of paratransport cash fares, and there is one speaker, so we'll hold that item and return to it as well.
Present the response to inquiries.
Well, you need 2/3 of the Transit Commission to lift that item. Pardon me?
Just want a brief statement on it, but I'll ask them if they can lift it, otherwise we'll have to move to the next agenda.
So is it the consent of the Commission to lift the communications on the evaluation of transit service levels?
Carried.
Carried? Okay.
Won't be long.
Okay, Commissioner Wilkinson, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thank the staff for putting this together. It's not new information, but what I would like to see a bit more is on timing. Some of the areas that have been involved that are well outside the limit for walking, etc., have been there for 4 or 5 years. So I'm not talking brand new. So when we're looking at these revisions to service levels, and I know that's been done. I've had several meetings with OC already about that, but it is really important that we consider that, because people are saying, well, I'd like to be able to take the bus, but I can't because it's not there, and it's too far for me to get there in reasonable time to get to work, etc. And with all the problems we've had with traffic lately, not just the 417 yesterday, more people in the bus would have helped that, but I'm talking regular traffic when there isn't an accident, with construction and various other things, the more we can do to encourage that. I recognize there hasn't been an increase in budget, but there has been an increase in areas. So the people in the new areas are bearing the brunt of that. In one case, I do have a developer paying a shuttle bus for now, but that's not always available. It has to be fairly sizable development to get that. So just asking that the timing be a little faster and that perhaps we get some more indication of when we can provide service. I mean, you've indicated the three key areas right now, and I'm sure there'll be more in the future. I just wanted to make that quite clear, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Wilkinson. Is that it received on the item? Thank you. So we'll now move to the Chair's update. I wanted to start my update by formally introducing all of you to the new Director of the Rail Implementation Office, Stephen Cripps. Mr. Cripps, could you just stand and be recognized? Mr. Cripps will be leading the new Confederation Line project and comes to Ottawa from the Ministry of Transportation with over 30 years of progressive engineering and management experience. He is a licensed civil engineer with proven managerial leadership experience in all facets of highway planning, design, construction, and maintenance. We are pleased to have Mr. Cripps on board with the City of Ottawa and look forward to working with you as we embark upon the largest capital project in our city's history. So welcome. You You will recall that in January, Metrolinx upgraded Presto to version 2.2, which enabled OC Transpo to complete a number of improvements to its bus computer software system. Since the completion of these upgrades, I am pleased to announce that the time it takes for online or phone purchases to be downloaded on customer cards once they tap the Presto machines has been significantly reduced. Prior to April 21st, online and phone Presto purchases were updated once a day and could take between 24 to 48 hours to download and be ready for use on an OC Transpo bus or train. With the leveraging of the new software and the cellular connection, OC Transpo and Presto transactions will be updated 3 to 6 times a day as opposed to the previous one time per day. I'm pleased to say that OC Transpo is currently the only bus system in the Presto world using cellular connection, which now makes our download times the quickest and most efficient out there. This enhancement reinforces the convenience and benefits of the Presto system, and we are confident it will further enhance the customer's experience. To improve nighttime safety after 9 p.m. at transitway stations, all routes will serve one stop, the Night Stop. The Night Stop is a well-lit bus stop marked in yellow with the TransSecure logo. It is centrally located and close to yellow emergency call boxes and pay phones. Having all customers in one designated location provides a safe atmosphere for those waiting for a bus during the evening hours. Transit Services is making enhancements to the Night Stop program. The signs will now be bigger, brighter, and more visible. Starting in May, these new signs will be installed at every transitway station. I am proud of this initiative and very happy that we have taken something positive and made it even better. Once again this year, OC Transpo will provide free service for everyone on Canada Day. On Tuesday, July 1st, our special Canada Day service will ensure community members and visitors in our nation's capital can take advantage of the many exciting activities taking place across the city. This includes the amazing annual celebration on Parliament Hill. Bus and O-train service will be increased to reflect the higher ridership levels on that day, and extra trips will also be added to many local routes later in the evening. Please stay tuned for more information related to Canada Day bus service by visiting octranspo.com or by following us on Twitter. And that is the end of my verbal update. Are there any questions? Seeing none, received. Thank you. So now we'll turn the presentation over to item number 3, capital adjustments and closings of transit projects. And Ms. Similak, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce to my right Adeline Cumming. She's the FSU manager for Transit Services, and she'll be assisting me this morning. So while we get this, there we go. So just to remind you, the purpose of the capital close and adjustments and the process that we go through, because you only see this once a year, so there may be, you may have forgotten or not been exposed to this previously. Once a year, we look at all of the capital projects in the transit area, and every one of those projects has a year identified as to when it's supposed to be complete. And typically, we will close those projects in that year unless the project manager says it isn't done and asks for an extension on the time. So we come forward and ask for changes in timing and or costs. Some projects, the additional costs are identified as we go through with them. Others, there are reductions in costs. So all of those are presented to you today. As per policy, when we have surplus funds on a particular capital project, they are returned to source. The debt that is put on there is basically the debt authority is removed. Development charges have to be returned to development charge accounts as per the legislation, and cash, which it would be the transit reserve, gets returned to the transit reserve. New projects are added through the budget process. We don't use this as an opportunity to add on new items unless they are of an extreme nature, something that absolutely has to be done this year that was not included in the current year's budget. So in this report, there are recommendations to close a number of completed projects in document 1.
the request to change the year in which the project will be complete, which is document 3. There is in document 2, you have a number of requests for adjustments to projects, either reductions or increases, that exceed the delegated authority limit. Currently, under delegated authority in finance, we can adjust a project up to 10% or $100,000, whichever is less, and we do that. And also, if there's any adjustments required to debt, that has to come forward. We don't have any authority to adjust any debt levels. And then finally, in document 4, for information, we disclose all of the other adjustments that we have done under delegated authority during the year. So the result of all of the work that was done to review the capital projects sees that through the closures in document 1, you are actually returning or eliminating $3.127 million worth of authority. A lot of it is debt, as you can see. That means that debt is just going to be eliminated. It doesn't get transferred to another project. It just reduces the amount of debt that we have to issue on a go-forward basis. Document 2, which is the budget adjustments, returning to source, is another $1.681 million is being returned, and you'll see in total the transit reserve is going to go up by $1.76 million. The development charge for transit reserve will go up by $1.3 million, and then you basically have debt authority of approximately $1.8 million that will be removed from the books of the city. There are a few projects that I want to highlight for you that do need adjustments. Primarily projects that were approved in previous years with assumptions made about them. The 925 Belfast Road property, that property was approved by FEDCO for purposes of purchasing with regards to the light rail project back in December of 2013. It was a strategic acquisition at that time, and when it came forward, the report identified that the fit-up costs would be identified as part of a capital close and adjustment report, which is what you have here. So we are moving $5.8 million of funds onto that particular project for the fit-up, and it's coming from existing capital projects. So it's not going into your transit reserve, it's not adding any new debt, it's coming from other projects that are being closed. The O-Train, the service expansion, when we put that project, came forward with that report probably 2 years ago at least, at that time we were anticipating that we would get relief from the import duty, as the federal government was in the process of working out a free trade agreement with the European Union, and so we made a request from the federal Minister of Finance to get some exemption from that import duty, and in February of this year we received a letter back saying that no, we would not be given any relief, so that's adding $1 million onto that project. In addition to that, when you order the trains, you order them with the rules that are in place with regards to all the regulatory requirements, but those regulatory requirements change over time. And subsequent to us having received the train, they've been inspected by Transport Canada, and a number of new regulations require additional works on the train, grab bars, stuff like that. And in total, it's an additional $1.3 million for all of the new regulatory requirements that have to be incorporated before these trains can be operating. So all of these funds in total were found from existing projects. Again, as there's no dipping into any of the reserves or adding new debt on. They're all from projects that were on the books and have excess funds within them. So just to look at where we think you'll be at the end of 2014. At the end of 2013, your transit reserve had $25 million in. We're actually anticipating to have $56 million in. Now this, you're adding $1.3 million back at this point in time, but it really, the bigger piece of your transit reserve is coming from the contribution this year. Your paratransport fleet is expected to have $1.7 million in. The gas taxes, which both the provincial and the federal, which City Council has directed be used for transit purposes, we're showing those as well. And we anticipate to have $18 million in the federal one and 26 in the provincial. So it looks like you've gone from 38 to 103. It looks like a very positive financial position, but I just want to caution you before you think there's lots of room to add new projects on. This is all part of the plan that we have for funding light rail. So that $56 million that you have in the transit reserve is going to be spent in 2015, 16, and 17, and the same with regards to the gas taxes as we start paying for the cost of building the Confederation line. So the $103 million, there will not be too much of it that won't be spent within the next couple of years. But currently, we are right on track with the plan with respect to the funding of the light rail. And that concludes my presentation, Madam Chair, and we're here to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you very much, Ms. Similik. There are some questions, starting with Commissioner Bloss.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I like the way the system works because the documents I just had on the screen just disappeared. So I'll go back to them. But let me go to...
We planned that.
I know. I was going to say that it's a wonderful system. Some of the unforeseens, and for instance, I'm looking at the original report that came forward when we talked about the O-train expansion, and part of to sweeten the pot was the reference to duty relief. How was that premise built into that report in the first place? Like, where did that notion come from that we would get duty relief only to find out afterwards that that's denied?
The original premise came from the fact that the federal government has been negotiating a free trade agreement with the Economic Union for, I think this is possibly, when they signed it, I think it might have been the 5th year. So we knew this was ongoing negotiations, and we anticipated that by the time that the trains arrived, that free trade agreement would be in place and we would be duty-free. Unfortunately, even though the trade agreement is signed, the ratification process, from what I understand, takes probably 18 months because every European country has to agree to it. So the actual relief will not come at the time of the signing. So I think probably you could say it was optimism on our part that it would be in place, but we made the request, and I think it was seriously considered because it certainly took enough time for them to respond to it, but in the end they did deny it.
I guess the danger, though, with building a report on a premise, and that was one of the carrots that was thrown in there, is that we make a decision, a financial decision in terms of a project, and if the premise is weak or whatever, that probably shouldn't be added. That shouldn't be included. And I know the free trade negotiations with the EU went over many years. I mean, they were ongoing long before we ever contemplated getting the trains that were, I guess, the ex-Bombardier via Alstom, which, by the way, I guess the former GM prior to Mr. Manconi had some affiliation with, but that's another story. Just want to get to another question, because I guess my point is that we shouldn't be overly optimistic in a report that we approve and we move forward on a project than to have it come back. The regulatory aspects are a little different because we don't have, we don't have any control over that. But with respect to closing some of the accounts, and I'm trying to figure out exactly where this would fit in, but we have a number of places across the city where there's road damage directly related to OC Transpo, bus stops, sewer grates and cycling lanes, etc. In fact, I was just sending some in, and we're being told by Public Works, no, we don't have money to repave the cycling lane. We'll get out to patching it. We can't raise the sewer covers back up to a level. And these are actually there's some risk involved here, and yet we're closing some accounts that have surpluses. Why wouldn't we say this is directly related, some of this damage is directly related to OC Transpo, similar to the lane on the bridge over here that prematurely gets repaved and rebuilt. Why wouldn't we transfer some of that money over and say that's related to OC Transpo, let's make those repairs happen?
That actually still can happen, but because transit is its own tax rate, and you raise the monies for the transit reserve from the transit tax rate, when you close a project, it has to go back to the reserve. Public Works can make the case that, in fact, some of the works that they have to do should be funded by transit, and if they do, then we would make the transfer at that time. But we would never transfer from a project, as per our policy, from a project that's funded with tax dollars raised from transit onto a project that is funded from the citywide tax levy. So that process can still happen, though, Councillor. It isn't a case that it's not, just because it's not included here, that it wouldn't happen. But Public Works has to make their case, and then we would look at it.
But for instance, if you're closing accounts that, that fall under infrastructures, and you may have them as, they don't actually seem to be specific projects related to one particular item. They're actually more general, such as structures, patching, etc. And I don't know enough details about those individual funds, but certainly those are the kinds of works that we're in dire need of, and yet we're saying, oh, we got a surplus, we can just we can close these and just return it. So help me here. How do we make that happen? What direction do we give that Mr. Manconi deals with his former colleagues and goes back? And I can give him lots of examples where, and you can see that it's directly related to, there's a bus stop, the bus goes into the cycling lane, the sewer covers are being sunk because of the weight of buses, etc. How do we make that happen then?
I actually don't think you have to give us any direction. I believe that what we would do is we would approach Public Works and ask them for their detailed list of works that they have to do where they think the cause of the works is stemming from OC Transpo, and then it would be a case of us sitting down with Public Works and with Transit to review it and to determine if there is a transfer of funds from the Transit Reserve onto those projects required to facilitate them.
Okay, well, I'll follow up with Mr. Manconi via email then. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Blois. Seeing no further questions, carried on the report. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Similek. Our next item is the extension of temporary reduction of paratranspo cash fares, and there is one public delegation. Where is it? It's Catherine Gardner. You don't want. Good morning, Ms. Gardner.
Good morning. Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say that I agree with the motion to go ahead. But what I don't understand is that when Paratranspo gets their own system, would we not have the same cash value as the e-purse? So I'm just wondering why it is being extended when they are trying to get a program to equal us. My other comment would be, I know that they're saying that they want to get their own program for Paratranspo users. Right now we have access to the Presto card on if we have a pass on it for Paratranspo, which is great. And I appreciate all the work that Paratranspo and OC Transpo have done with us. Now, my one comment is that I understand that the taxis, because we have Paratranspo taxis, we can't put the reader in those vehicles. Paratranspo taxis, if I'm not mistaken, have to go into the depot Paratranspo office to get their work order and return at the end of the day with their work order and their fees that they've collected. So why can we not have portable card readers to give at the time that they pick up their order and hand it back in instead of reinventing the wheel? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gardner. I see Mr. Scrimgeour has joined the table. I'm guessing it's to answer the concerns raised by the public delegation. So, Mr. Scrimgeour, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The question that Ms. Gardner asked was, I think the question was, once the Paratranspo electronic fare system is in place, will the e-purse fares be the same on Paratranspo as they are on the conventional system? And that's certainly our plan and what we'll be recommending to the Commission in future budgets.
Thank you. Okay, we don't, as you know, Ms. Gardner, we don't allow a dialogue. Can you turn on your microphone?
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to add something before I finish there. I'm just wondering, because I use Paratranspo, I have all these tickets. Every time I get on the bus, the driver has to write me up. This is to validate that I have a pass. I have a pass. I have the receipt with my pass to show the driver that I actually have a pass on there. I'm getting some of these 4 times a day, some of them from the same driver. I'm just wondering why we're doing so much paperwork, especially if we have 3 people with Presto getting on at the same stop. It takes a lot of time. The first time I get on the bus in the month, can I not be written up, have my yellow copy, show my yellow copy with my Presto card number, with my receipt? That stays with me all the time. And then Paratranspo already has my card number. Do we really need to be written up all these times?
Okay, well, I see Troy Charter has joined the table. I think he'll answer that. But some of these questions, if you could deal with OC Transpo offline on some of these, if they arise, I'm sure they'd be happy to work with you to address these issues. Mr. Charter.
Madam Chair, I'll turn over to Troy in a moment, but just for clarity, that system that Ms. Gardner just pointed to, that was in response to the ask that was put forward by Ms. Gardner and others, so we've accommodated that, and it's the interim solution. And the other ideas that are being put out there, they touch on scope change in terms of, you recall, we weren't getting anywhere with an automated system for our para customers, and we, OC Transpo, with your support, said, let's get on with this. We're not waiting for the Metrolink solution. We've waited long enough. Portable use devices for the taxi industry, automated processes and so forth, that will all come if Metrolinx develops those technologies. We'll adopt those. But in the meantime, our focus is on doing what you've directed us to do, and that's to implement the automated booking system for our customers. And the yellow forms are for the 4% that have asked for that service. So if we need more details, Mr. Charter can certainly dive into that.
Yes, Madam Chair, we are currently seeing about 4% of our customers are using that the Presto card on Paratranspo. We're regularly speaking with our operators to find out if it's an overly onerous process, and we've seen no negative impact on the service levels we've been able to provide to our customers. It's a process that was put in place to ensure that for every single trip we are either collecting the cash, the tickets, or we're documenting that a Presto card was used on our service.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being here this morning, Ms. Gardner. Are there any questions on item number 4? Seeing none, carried on the recommendation? Carried. Okay, any inquiries? Other business? Adjourn. Thank you.